Okay, now don't be mad.
You're listening to the RPM Podcast.
It's not good.
And here we are again, episode 146 of the RPM Podcast. It is August 5th, 2019 at 8:38 p.m. We were on time. We did get together here at 8 o'clock, but we've been sitting here BSing for the last half hour. So we had a 30-minute show before the show. So, but we're here now. I'm Scott Riggleman, driver of the 09 Factory Stock at Wall Stadium in my Edge of Divorce Motorsports studio in Manchester, New Jersey. My brother Tim Riggleman, spotter for Eric Goodale, who had a very scary wreck at Stafford Motor Speedway on Friday night, is up in his Farmdale studios. Tim, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Ready to go.
And Josh Matthews, the producer of our show and the original member of the RPM Podcast. Josh Matthews is down at his Matthews Family Studio in Waretown, New Jersey. Josh, how are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to figure out a price for admission for people to watch our pre-show now.
Yeah. So, we're going to get started right here. First, Tim, I just want to ask how Eric's doing. If people watched the Modified Tour race, Eric, they had a green-white checker there at the end of the race, and Eric got tangled up in a last lap crash. And what was scary about his wreck is he hit driver's side first, which is scary at a track like Stafford, especially in a modified where you don't have much protecting you on the driver's side. How was Eric after that wreck, Tim?
He's okay. He banged his knee up a little bit, but he was able to go down there and help them work on the car, get it back together. They wouldn't, they towed it behind the track and wouldn't tow it any further. So they had to go back behind the speedway to fix the car enough to get it to move. He's okay. He called Scooter, not me, on the way home, and he talked to Scooter and everything. He said he was okay. I haven't talked to him since then, but he's fine.
You know how bad the car was?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Everything's pretty well. The shocks, the rear. The whole left side was pretty well trash header.
All right, we're going to start right with the NASCAR stuff. NASCAR was at Watkins Glen Speedway, a road course race. I never used to be a big fan of road course racing, but lately it's been really good. I got to do one road course race myself when they had that Eldora up in Englishtown, and after that day, I'm like, you know what, this road course racing is pretty good. Then I spent a weekend out at Watkins Glen, but it wasn't for racing. We just went up there for the wineries and stuff.
Oh, this is with the dogs in the car, right?
Yeah, we did go over to the track, and there was you paid $20 and you got to do 3 laps in your personal vehicle around the track. So we did it, and it was really cool. What a beautiful racetrack. My brother's been there before. He's spotted there for the Modified Tour when they used to go there. It's just a cool town, Watkins Glen. It's full of racing history. The town's built on wineries and auto racing. So what more could you ask for? You know, it looks like they had great weather up there. You know, it was super sunny. You can see the mountains in the back. You know, all the grasses were green. Perfect racing weekend up there. They said that they have over 5,000 camping spots there, and they were sold out. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a lot of campers. The crowd looked awesome. I know there were some empty spots in some of the grandstands, but at these road course races, you got to understand people wander around. There's so much to do. You know, you'll sit in turn 1 and watch the first 20 laps in turn 1 and get bored. So now you'll just walk over to the S's and watch 20 laps over in the S's, and then you'll walk down to turn 6 and watch it from there. That's what's cool about the road course racing. You can wander around, just find a grassy hill to sit on it and watch that corner for a while. You can float around a little bit. That's what makes road course racing different.
That's basically what Rutledge Wood does during the race.
Yeah,
he
actually did a good job with that. I'm not a big fan of Rutledge Wood, but I like what he did at Watkins Glen. It was cool. You went around, he sat in every different section of the track, showed you different points of view. He even went to a couple campers, and you know the one bus was real cool. They call it the bus stop because it was in the bus stop, and they had like a big deck on the top of the bus with with a canopy over it so you weren't in the sun. And when he was interviewing the guy that owned that old school bus that was all fixed up, you looked in the back, there was a spotter for Penske standing on that truck. One of the Penske spotters stand on top of the bus and spot the race from the top of a personal camper, which was pretty cool, you know. It was cool. I mean, Watkins Glen was cool. The race was good. One thing I did know.
I'm sorry. That brings me an interesting question. Tim, are there any like off limits places for spotters that you know of?
No, you can probably. When we used to go to Watkins Glen and Lime Rock, there was one spot where you had to have a spotter because that's where the NASCAR official was, and then you could basically put somebody else wherever you want. I don't know of a spot that you're not allowed to go to, like for some particular reason, maybe high voltage or something, or where you can't go. But no, I think you can go pretty much wherever you go. And like Scott said, that guy might have known that guy. He said, "I'm going to spot from top of your bus," or
I'd love to
spot from all over.
I want to get a camper, get like a really prime spot, and then charge the guy $20 to stand on my camper.
You know what? I think the other way. How cool is now that guy's like part of the action. Like he probably has that Penske spotter come to that spot every year. Hey, we'll have a spot saved for you. And how cool is it to be like, oh, that's our guy. We helped that team. We're part of that team now. We gave him a spot to spot from.
As long as you're not one of those people that leaves early.
Right. He doesn't leave with 30 to go. But like my brother says, I mean, you do have to have one spotter in the one spot where NASCAR's at. And then after that, you can probably have whoever you want anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people ask my brother how to become a NASCAR spotter. One of the places you can go to get your start is a road course because that's the one track they need.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they need anybody to help. They'll just sit you down in one corner and say, this is your corner, watch it. You know what I'm saying? Because they need more than one spotter. So
I could very easily do those races. I just choose not to, between Hot Pockets and all those guys. It's easy to do. Like Scott said, it's just a boring day when you're doing one corner,
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way, but you're back on the front stretch. Okay. Yeah.
It's basically go to the stop sign at your end of your road, Josh, and sit there in a lawn chair and tell your wife to drive around the block 45 times. And every time she comes by, you tell her to stop at the stop sign. That's basically what you're doing.
But for a kid trying out, man, he would sit there at that stop sign all day and do it.
I hear you.
Josh, you have crazy restarts in our show doc here. What did you want to talk about the restarts on this race?
I mean, they were going 3, 4, 5 wide on these restarts. I mean, it's not very Watkins Glen is a narrow track for the most part. I know some of the turns you have that paved area going off, especially turn 1 where Jimmy Johnson years ago flew through the air in the sand and into the styrofoam barrier. But, I mean, one of the most exciting parts because they would get a little strung out. There was good racing overall. I think it was great racing all weekend on the road course. Unlike some other NASCAR fans that can't seem to handle it if they do something other than turn left. I don't know, but I mean the restarts were just insane. No matter who was leading, no matter if it was early in the race, late in the race, people were trying to make up spots. They were braking too hard or getting into the back of somebody. There's cars spinning, going across, dodging. I mean, it was just insanity, and it was really fun to watch. That's all.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty much every NASCAR race now. I mean, the restarts are exciting, and that's part of the reason they went to the what do they call it? The stage racing.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have some exciting restarts and bunch the field back up. We have Truex passing the grass on Brad K. I said the grass was a problem this race. I mean, we talk about it all the time. 10 years from now, we're not going to see grass around a racetrack. Everything's going to be paved because the grass is a little dangerous. Not that it was dangerous here, but it was.
It was dangerous for the motors.
Yeah, it was dangerous for the motors and the brakes and all the air going through the car because what was happening is the grass was high. And if the car went off in the grass, that splitter acted like a lawnmower blade and would just cut the grass and it would pack the grills with the grass clippings, Mm-hmm. It was funny when they would come down pit road and they'd clean off that grill. There was literally a pile of grass like you dumped out your bagger off your lawnmower, It was catching a lot of grass. I mean,
it is amazing how much would get packed on there. It would even just a quick little slid off the track for a couple feet. How much got jammed in there that fast? It was pretty incredible. But I will say for the Truex thing, everybody talks about Earnhardt and the pass in the grass. You know what? The real pass in the grass was what Truex did, putting the 2 right side tires into the grass and going around Brad Keselowski. I think he made up 2 positions. It was towards the end of the race. I forget what lap it was, but that was. I don't. He's lucky the splitter didn't catch. He's lucky he didn't, lose traction or spin back across the track or something like that. But
I'm giving NASCAR a lot of credit. One of the exciting parts is a pass like that at a road course. and they're not getting strict with it. Like I thought they were going to start getting strict with, you pass someone in the grass like that, you're losing 2 spots, because that's what NASCAR does. When something exciting starts happening, they make a rule against it. It takes away that excitement.
Right.
And they didn't. And they didn't at Watkins Glen. They let them race. They let them bump and
You remember
hit each
that
other.
race? That race way back in the day. I think it was Ricky Rudd. He won the race, and then he's going around doing the pace lap, and they said they disqualified him. They didn't disqualify him from the race, but they docked him like 2 seconds off. He had to go 2 seconds back.
Yeah.
You remember that? He didn't win the race because of that.
Right.
They have done away with that. Was what my point is.
Yeah, no, they definitely let these guys race and race hard. They didn't really interfere with the with them racing hard, and it was a good race. It was an exciting race.
The finish was pretty darn good. I mean, of course, I was pulling for Truex, but I mean, he was on it. He was giving everything he had. Chase Elliott, I don't know why he had to win, but
he had big straightaway speed.
Yeah, he did. But
Martin would get him in the corners, and he would pull away in the straightaway.
But it was a good, close race. I mean, I think it was like, 0.4 seconds or something like that.
Tim, you're friends with Spencer Davis down there in Georgia, and he grew up racing go-karts. So did Chase. I think that, and so did Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. raced go-karts up here. I think his go-karting background really helps them, too, with their road course skills, Yeah. I know a lot of people don't know that about Chase, but he grew up in Dawsonville, Georgia, and a lot of kids down there starting go-karts in the road course racing down there, and it's real big down there. Karting's real big down in Georgia. Mm-hmm. So I think that really
still
helps.
Races go-karts.
What's that?
Spencer still races go-karts.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer still races go-karts on there. But I think that's what really helps Chase with these road courses, and he does a great job. I think that's his second win now at Watkins Glen. He's really got that track figured out. Good for him. I mean, Chevy needed, some boost. Chevy's been doing better the last few races now. They got a couple wins now.
And they did fire up the horn for him when he won.
The siren.
You
the
sent
siren.
that video, right?
Yeah.
Another talking point I wanted to get to, I forgot to put it on the show sheet. The whole Bubba Wallace, Kyle Busch thing. I guess Kyle Busch roughed up Bubba earlier in the race, and Bubba just had enough of it.
According to Winston and Freddie, there must have been an altercation somewhere that the camera didn't catch. Right. I guess Kyle must have roughed Bubba up at some point. And then when it came to where the camera caught it, I guess that was the second half of it. And, they banged door to door, and Kyle got in front of him, probably figured that was it. And then Bubba just sent him. So,
yeah.
I got two opinions about it. Yeah, Bubba should stick up for himself if Kyle Busch did rough him up. But on the other hand, Bubba's got to worry about running better before he starts acting like that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's not even good enough to act like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He does. He says, how he's tired of, people disrespecting him. But, he's Alexis's favorite driver, and Freddie does spot for him. And I don't dislike Bubba, but like you said, I'm sure there's been many races that he's been 4 or 5 laps down getting in these guys' way. You know what I'm saying?
Had enough of them,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Scott. Stand up for yourself.
Kyle was extremely fast. He got something happened where he had to go back to the back of the pack for some reason. I don't know why. He was making his way back up from the back.
Okay.
To the front. He pitted differently or spun out or something. I don't know. I don't remember what.
Bubba spun him again, and he still made it back up and finished 11th, which is pretty good on a road course to make up all those spots.
Yes, that's actually a really good point there, Scott.
For the people that say that their spotters will probably be fighting at Freddie Kraft and Winston, which is Tony Hirschman, they'll be fighting again at Turkey Derby, so it's no big deal.
All right, Josh, you got the top 10 for the Cup race?
Yep, I do. So Chase Elliott obviously got the win. They blew the horn. Truex Jr. Said good job for Chase. Just couldn't catch him. Denny Hamlin in third, Eric Jones, Ryan Blaney, Matt D. Benedetto.
That's another good finish for Matt D.
He's doing really well, that guy.
Real good in that
but
he knows the pressure's on because Christopher Bell's supposed to be taking.
The writing's pretty much on the wall that he's probably not going to be in that car next year.
Yeah.
The money's not going to put him there. Do you know what I'm saying?
A slightly disappointing day, I guess, for Kevin Harvick back in seventh because I know he was starting a lot better than that. Kyle Larson in eighth, Keselowski in ninth, and Kurt Busch rather in 10th with Kyle Busch in 11th. And yeah, that's your top 10.
So I tell you what, the summer months have been really good to NASCAR. I mean, we were saying, Pocono was the third, fourth time, we came down to the end and the places were crowded. And we, like Josh said at the beginning of the show, we had another NASCAR race that had a great crowd and a good finish. So NASCAR's having a good summer.
Yeah, it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. I know that the seats looked a bit empty at the end of the race when they're doing the interviews, but that was probably a bunch of people also trying to get out and beat traffic and everything else.
Yeah, because there's only a couple country roads in and out of that place, man. Because when we were up there in the summer, we always went up there camping, and I'm like, man, it's literally 2-lane country roads trying to fight out to get to. I think they call it 86 now. It used to be Route 17, but I think they call it Route 86 now. But I bet you it is tough to get out of there back out to a major highway.
Just hope your camper hangs out for another day or so. I like when tracks, because like with Turkey Derby, they let you stay Sunday night, I think, into Monday, and then you got to be out of there Monday. But that's good because I know the racing ends a bit earlier on Sunday, but it gives everybody a chance. And traffic usually getting out of Wall is not bad at all. But if you want to hang out, finish that night out, and then Monday head back, it works. And I think that I hope that the big tracks for NASCAR allow that as well.
There's actually been a couple of campers at Wall Stadium every week.
Yeah,
like one or two every week. There's been somebody stays. I don't know if they they have a quarter midget or something, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely see him with the quarter midgets.
Me and my brother Tim, we grew up camping at racetracks. Never once have we been rushed off the property of a racetrack. You know what I'm saying? If you want to stay an extra day, they always let you stay an extra day. I remember one time we were up at Pocono for the race champions, and I was only 17 years old, and I drove my Camaro up there, and the transmission went in the car up there. So we had to wait for Monday to find a place to get it fixed up there. And we did. We found a Lee Miles up there in the Pocono area, and they fixed my car on Monday. And me and John Blewett the third left Monday night, because it didn't get fixed till like 5 o'clock. Then me and John Blewett the third, we drove home that night. But my dad stayed until Tuesday because he had his camper up there and in the truck and the trailer and the race car and everything. He didn't want to drive home Friday, 5 o'clock that night. He's like, I'll just stay one more night and I'll pack up in the morning and I'll drive home.
Wow.
And while we were sitting there on Monday, the people that ran the racetrack actually came over and they said, hey, you guys are right. The races are over. It's Monday, And we're like, no, we had car troubles and our cars down the street at Lee Miles getting a transmission put in it, and we're waiting to get it back. And they're like, okay, you stay as long as you need to. We're just making sure you guys are right. Or say, yeah, as soon as our car's done, we're going to start heading back to Jersey. They said, if you need to stay a day or two, you're more than welcome to stay right where you're at. So they were actually really good to us.
I hope that stays in the track owners kind of.
And just for the people that listen to that story, where we used to camp at Pocono is now where the quarter midget track is.
Yeah, the little dirt quarter midget track over there in that corner. That's where we were camping at.
My dad had to camp the furthest away from the racetrack that you possibly could.
I just saw that. Speaking of quarter midgets or whatever, Paulie Hartwig, the third. Just won the Tour slingshot race on dirt. So
that kid does good.
That kid's a hell of a racer. So I want to give a quick shout out to him. I lost the post, of course, because my phone refreshed. Stupid Facebook.
All right, so moving on to the Xfinity Series, I did watch that race as well. That was a good race too. Mm-hmm. Kyle Busch was a heavy favorite to win that race, and he was in the K9 car.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
They must have paid up, and they're back into Joe Gibbs's good graces. And Kyle was running good, but he broke a ball joint, and that kind of ended his day. And I tell you what, that track is hard on stuff like that because you're hopping up over those curbs and catching air and slamming down. So
they'll get all four wheels off the ground.
Oh, I know it. Austin Cindric and AJ Allmendinger had a great race, man. They were duking it out, battling out. Unfortunately, after Tech, for the second time in a row that AJ had a good finish, he failed post-race inspection for the car being too low. So they got something going on there. I hate that rule. I hate that rule in a race like this because, like Josh just said, there's times there's four wheels off the ground and your car's literally jumping curbs and slamming down. So, yeah, you might lose a quarter inch or so in your suspension by the end of the race, but nobody else did, so he's the only one. So he got DQ'd again, which is unfortunate for AJ because every time he gets in that car for Carragher Motorsports, he's been running good. And it's just a shame. It's a lot of work and nothing to show for it in the end.
Now, I'm surprised that they couldn't try to replace the ball joint, though, with all the parts that they have available.
I'm sure they could have if Kyle was in a situation where he's running for points, but he's just there to win that race. And for him to go out 5 laps down, he's not going to do it. He's just there to win, and that's it. He ain't going out there to ride around for points. If he was one of their – if it was a Joe Gibbs car and it was one of their younger drivers who's racing for a points championship, I'm sure they would have did that. But once Kyle's a couple laps down, he ain't going back out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. One other thing, again, with the restarts, just absolute insanity. I forget who it was, got completely sideways, rode it out, saved it, and kept going. Was it Christopher Bell? I thought it was.
Yeah, it was Christopher Bell. That's right. I remember that. Yep.
And no wreck. I mean, it stacked up a bunch of cars. There was plenty of contact, but there was no wreck. I mean, that was great driving by everyone there to keep it, pointed the right direction. So just another good race. It was exciting. I didn't see any major wrecks like we've seen in the past where somebody bounced off the wall.
Nobody losing their brakes going into turn one. And that was, going back to the Cup race, that was the scary part too, what Bubba did to Kyle Busch. It's where he did it at the racetrack. That's a very high-speed part of the racetrack. That's pretty much the corner where J.D. McDuffie got killed going into that corner. It was just a bad place to turn somebody. That's another thing I didn't like about that. But yeah, we didn't see any super bad wrecks, which I'm thankful for. Which is good because sometimes those road courses get a little dangerous because you are carrying such speed, and there's short runoffs in some spots at high speed areas of the track. And
do you think it had to do with the high downforce? Because they're talking about how much it was affecting the fuel mileage already.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, they're sticking to the track good now.
So maybe that was it. They weren't getting as loose or out of control and flying into the wall. Really,
just everything, Josh. The NASCAR cars are better today than they ever been. You know what I'm saying? So stuff doesn't break like it used to. I mean, back in the day when I used to work on NASCAR teams, we would just take our biggest piece of junk short track car and take it to the road course because the chances of it getting wrecked were high. So we wouldn't take a good car there. We would take a junker there. And by the end of the race, stuff would break. A spindle would break. A shock mount would break. Brakes weren't that good.
It's funny that you say that.
Course cars now,
When John first, I don't think it was his first time, but he went there with Mario's car. Mario had a brand new transmission, and they took it out of the car and they put an old transmission in. And John's like, "No, I want the new transmission." Mario's like, "No, you don't want to use that here. You'll end up breaking it." Yeah. And John's like, "Well, I'm going to shift. I want to use it." So he put it back in there. He went out there the second lap of practice. He got off the track into the whatever you want to call the things on the side of there, the alligator strips or whatever, and ripped the transmission right out of the car. Mario standing there with his hands on his hips. He stuck his head in the car. "You broke my transmission." So we had to change the transmission and put the old one back in anyway.
Yeah. But it's not like that now. It's not like that. They got road course cars now, and they take the top of the line stuff to these road course nows too. So we don't have stuff falling apart like we used to. All right, Josh, you got the top 10 from that race?
Yep. 1 second. Okay, so Austin Cindric, and then as we mentioned before, Allmendinger had a great finish in second, but failed in post-race tech. So second went to Christopher Bell, Allgaier, Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, Cole Custer, Michael Annett, Noah Gregson, and Ryan Preece in 10th. So there you have it. I was actually surprised to see Preece running in 10th. Or running in the Xfinity race.
He's a good driver, and he was in one of
I'm sorry, I meant to say in the Xfinity race, not in 10th.
Oh, yeah.
They expected him to run higher than that.
Yeah, of course. He really didn't have a good weekend because he didn't do nothing in the Cup car either. He had problems with the Cup car, too. All right, so we're moving over to the dirt at Eldora. That was on Thursday night, which I think is a perfect night for that race. It used to be on Wednesday night, and they moved it to Thursday night. It's just a nice night to come home from work and 7 o'clock at night. You can eat dinner and watch some racing on TV. It was really cool. they tried to make the heat races exciting and the non-qualifiers race exciting. It really wasn't exciting because everybody was qualified. So, but it was cool watching these little heat races and stuff. And of course, they always talk about the Norm Benning thing, and he made it no problem. So Stuart Friesen ended up getting a win, which is good for Stuart because he had a terrible race at Pocono. He wrecked turn 1, lap 1. And he's, like my brother's saying, he's having some tough times. So he rebounded big time by getting a win on the dirt. I tell you what, in the beginning of the race, it didn't look like he was going to win that race. Chase Briscoe was killing those guys. He was like a half a track ahead of everybody. And then he pitted and had to come back up through the back of the pack. And when he did, he rear-ended somebody and crushed the nose of his truck in. So once that happened and Chase was out of the run to win that race, it was all Stuart Friesen because Stuart Friesen was the only one that he was running second most of the race to Chase Briscoe. So once Chase had his problems and his truck was damaged, it was all Stewie, and Stewie held on. He even survived some late restarts, and he walked away with it and won the race. He drove a great race, and congratulations to Stuart Friesen. He definitely needed that win to turn his season around, and he needed a win in the NASCAR trucks.
I thought this was one of the races that you always want to watch every year, when it comes out. It's starting to be where, like you said, first of all, there's not enough trucks to make to qualify. It was better when they had more than enough trucks so those races did mean something. And there's really no star power there now. Like none of the Cup guys are coming down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like Austin Dillon wasn't down there like normal. The crowd was a little down there. There was a great crowd. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like years past where it was overflowing and there was some empty grandstands. And I did hear in one of the Tony Stewart interviews, he did say that he's going to try to come next year and run the race and try.
Yeah, they got to get some more star power in there.
He pretty much said what you just said, Tim, and he said next year he's going to try to put a deal together so he can race it.
And there was only 2 passes for the lead, the guy that led the whole thing, and then when Stewart took it.
Right. So but I tell you what, there was great racing through the pack. I mean, they were going 4 or 5 wide. I enjoyed it. I don't look at it as a NASCAR truck race. It looks like a big street stock race to me, because they're not going that fast. I think when they first started racing there, Tim, didn't they say that the local street stocks actually went faster than the
IMCA cars or whatever they were racing.
So, I mean, it was a cool race. I mean, I enjoy it. I definitely enjoy it.
I was going to ask Josh, do you think this is something that's still a good product, or has jumped the shark? It needs a little fine tuning.
I think no matter what, like the first couple times are going to be a big deal. It's going to become bucket list kind of thing. It's waning down a little bit. We said there's still a good crowd. Yeah,
it's the 7th year,
Yeah, so it's going to drop off a bit. I don't think it's going to become boring. I don't think it's the best track personally. I'm fine seeing the trucks on dirt. I don't think Eldora is the best track to do it. Personally,
the only other place I could think of that would be cool to bring these trucks on a dirt tracks.
Grandview.
Well, I don't know if you've been to Grandview lately, but those grandstands scare me at Grandview.
I'm not talking about the grandstands. I'm talking about the track.
The track would be cool. Grandview would be cool, but the facility itself, I don't think it can handle a big race like that.
Yeah.
And when you think of a race like that in a dirt track, it's hard to find a facility that can handle it. But another one that comes to my mind is Knoxville.
Okay.
Knoxville.
A lot of people, they say every year after it, they always say, put the dirt back on Bristol and have them do Bristol with the Outlaw cars.
That would be a good race, though.
Isn't there a dirt track? Was it by Las Vegas?
Yeah, there is a dirt track there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is that the O'Reilly Park or whatever it is, or am I thinking?
Yeah, there's all kinds. There's a road course there and a dirt track and everything else.
Las Vegas has its own dirt track right there on the facility. Why not have it right at Charlotte? I mean, Charlotte's got a dirt track too.
Yeah, they got a beautiful dirt track over there. Yeah,
there's too much in that area. We got to make them. I think one problem is, I mean, you make it a travel destination. I get the All-Star race, kind of being almost a home off weekend for a lot of the guys because they're in North Carolina. But, why not change it up? Because, I mean, Charlotte's not the best track. Change it up once in a while, but then you got to make everybody travel. So if you do it at the same place every year, I mean, I'm not saying that we get rid of the Daytona 500 kind of a thing, but try a different dirt track, almost like the Super Bowl moves every year.
Right.
If we did something like that.
Bubba's track in Florida would be pretty cool because that's a nice place. While we're talking about Eldora, we got to congratulate Eric Rudolph on his win there.
Oh.
One of 3 races he's won in the last 5 days. So
That's one cool thing about racing a dirt modified. You can race that thing every night of the week if you want.
yep. Eric won there, and then he won 2 other places since then. So he's on a streak.
We also want to give a shout out to Chris Garback, who ran as well with his dirt mod. I think that he overheated and had to pull off early, but I mean, great to make the trip out there to Eldora and
He actually
run
raced
with those
twice
guys.
out there. They had like a regular race on like Wednesday, and then he got invited back on Thursday for some like smaller invitational race that was won by Dave Blaney. I'm not sure how all that worked, but he was invited back to come race Thursday in like a 10 or 15 car invitational race.
Well, Michael Waltrip liked his the tweet about his car, so about Garback's car, that is. So that was pretty cool. So I don't know, just a little brush with fame, I guess. You love the backstory to Chris's life and his father and everything with their legacy of racing. So I just it's good to see that him getting out there and doing that. I don't know how much Fireball was consumed. I'm not going to go down that road, but
Sure, a lot Thursday after he was done racing. Another weird thing that happened out there, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Mike Marlar had a Marathon gas station sponsor in his truck when he showed up, and NASCAR made him take it off.
That's nothing new. When Nextel was there, they made all those other sponsors, all the other mobile, whatever, communications, they had to take all them off.
I remember Singular, which became AT&T, was allowed to stay with, I think it was Burton, because
to the end of the year or something
yeah,
like that. Yeah,
they had a previously they were grandfathered in because of a contract, which okay, but then Motorola, which is just a electronics manufacturer, wanted to go on one of the cars, I think for an Xfinity race, and they made them take it off because they felt that it was somehow competition.
I think that's NASCAR kicking themselves in the ass.
Yeah,
Here we can't find sponsors for these cars, and you got people that their money's no good there. Do you know what I mean?
I think nowadays with everybody struggling to find sponsorship and sponsors leaving the sport, not coming in the sport, you should let everybody play. They should have left it on for that one race, I think. But I also understand from Sunoco's, they give every race team in the top 3 divisions free fuel to race on to be the exclusive gas station of NASCAR. So I also see it from that point too. I think with the Sunoco sponsorship is a little bit different because they give to every single team. Like imagine racing a full season, Josh, and never paying for a drop of fuel.
I would love that.
So I kind of understand that one because they're not sponsoring just NASCAR. They're helping every team that pulls through that gate. So I kind of understand this one a little bit more than other times. But Mike Millar won in the end because he wrecked and dropped out. They interviewed him to be standing there in his Marathon gas station fire suit. So they got plenty of TV time. It's almost like Marathon got more TV exposure and more press on them being not allowed to be on the truck than if they were on the truck. So I think it worked out for both parties. And I hope this Mike Millar guy that, who was a dirt racer and he came to do this dirt race, I hope the Marathon Gas still gave him the money they were going to give him, because they can easily say, hey, you pulled our name off the truck, now we're not going to give you the money, say if it was 20 grand or 30 grand or whatever for that race.
Here's the $3 grand for it showing up on your fire suit.
Yeah, but I don't think they did. I have a feeling that they paid him only because they got plenty of TV time over it. So
we're talking about it.
It's almost like Sunoco would have been better off saying, yeah, let him run it, because no one would have talked about it. You know what I'm saying? So it was a weird deal. It really was. I was also surprised Josh has no Natalie Decker. She wasn't in her truck. They also had a dirt guy driving the 54 truck that Natalie usually drives.
That's like calling Boris Said or Scott Pruitt in to run the road course.
And the guy was running good. He was in the top 5 the whole time, but he ended up crashing. So the results were about the same.
So is it her or is it the truck?
Well, it's a dirt race, but
Scott, something I noticed around 5 laps to go, there was an axle laying in the track.
Yeah. And you know what? In dirt racing, it's hard on rear ends. You do break axles and gears and stuff like that. And
I wanted you to talk about your aluminum end plates again.
Yeah. I think it was more of the dirt thing, but yeah, it was the end caps that are just aluminum. They're held in by like 3 little Allen head screws, and pie broke and the axle slid out.
Yeah. That's probably all there was to it.
It's called a drive flange if you want to get technical. The drive flange in the end.
I gotta add that too. Yeah, so I mean that's.
Maybe you see him typing there. He's putting in what has he learned. We'll be hearing about this later. All right, go ahead, do your top 10 for the dirt race at Eldora Speedway, Josh.
Okay. Stuart Friesen, obviously with a win, great for kind of a local modified guy. Sheldon Creed, Grant Enfinger, Mike Marlar, our guy, finished 4th.
He did finish 4th.
Yeah. That's why he got TV time.
Yeah.
Not a podium finish, but close. Todd Gilliland, Chase Briscoe, Dipple, Tyler Ankrum in 9th. So
he's been running good.
Yeah, and Matt Crafton in 10th. That was I don't know. Maybe he's somebody we should be watching. Is it a good run?
That's a small team he's with, too. That's not like a big money team he's with either. No. He's been running good, I think. All right, Josh, real quick with your Indian F1 deal here. That's all you.
Well, IndyCar is still off until Pocono on the 18th, I believe it is. 18th, 19th. Anyway, so Formula One was in Hungary. They had a decent start. Honestly, the race was not bad, but it wasn't the most incredible race they've had in a while. Early on the first lap, Charles Leclerc made contact with Valtteri Bottas, which broke part of Bottas's right front wing. It surprisingly did not cut the tire down on Leclerc. I don't know how, with the sparks and everything we saw coming off of that. Anyway, Bottas ended up switching to hard tires and went with a one-stop deal for the race. I think previously they were planning on going with 2 stops. They replaced the wing, and then after that, there really wasn't a whole lot going on until teammates Daniel Kvyat and Albon went side by side, and until Kvyat ran Albon off the track, basically into a paved section off of a turn when he had to kind of give in there. That really was about it. Your Lewis Hamilton eventually passed Verstappen for the lead with only a couple laps to go, but he had fresher tires. He had like 19-lap fresher tires or something like that. I mean, he was able to blow right by Verstappen. And then Vettel finished 3rd. Beyond that, you had Leclerc, Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen, Bottas, Lando Norris, who is kind of, I don't know why, but he's a big deal lately. And Albon finished out your top 10. That's really all there is for Formula One. Yeah. That's all I got there, so I think we can move on.
Where do they go next?
I don't know. Belgium. They're going to Belgium next, so we'll see how that works out.
All right.
That's going to be. They're going into their break. It looks like.
No, that's good. We'll talk about them for a couple of weeks, though.
September 1st is their next race. So they're off for a while.
On to everybody's favorite section, the local. We want a couple shout outs for RPM stickers. We have been handing them out. People have been putting them on the race cars. Cody Critelli, the number 15 4-cylinder, he put them on his car.
They add 5 horsepower.
Yeah. and you still make minimum height after the race, even if you put them on. So keep putting them on. People need them. My brother still has some. TJ Graves is actually getting us more. He's another one that had him on in his car in New Egypt, the number 9 car.
We're going to get to TJ in a few minutes.
Yeah, so if anybody wants stickers, I'll have some in the pits. I will say my brother has them up in the grandstands. And Josh never shows up to races anymore, so don't ask him for anything.
And delete.
Chris Garback, we already talked about him being at Eldora. Something surprising I saw, Tim. I don't know if you heard any rumors of this before it happened, but Chuck Hassefeld.
I do know. Yeah, I didn't know that he was going to retire, but I do know that he was kind of cutting back in his racing and his personal life. He's doing pretty good, and I think he's happy with that. Just getting older. Chucky's a good dude, man. He's been around as long as I've been going to the races. I was surprised to hear it, but then again, I wasn't. I guess he's going to finish out the ROC tour, and then that's going to be it. He's good. He was, when John first started on the tour, he was the other up and coming driver at that time, and him and John had some really good battles. And at the end of the day, we've all become pretty good friends with Chucky. I wish him well in his retirement if he does go through with it. That's all I can say.
And Chucky did have a chance at the big time when Roush was doing that Gong Show stuff. Chucky was invited down there, and he did race a Craftsman Truck Series for Jack Roush, and there was a bunch of guys doing it, and it did come down to Chuck Hassefeld and Kurt Busch. I mean, that's how close he got to the big time, and we all know Kurt Busch got the nod there and went on to win the championship for Jack Roush. So, I mean, Chucky was a great racer. And what was kind of cool about that? He went down south. He had a shot. It didn't quite work out the way it was. A lot of people quit after that happens. Chucky just kept racing. He came back up here and just won every modified race around and showed that Roush was wrong for not choosing him and that he was a great race car driver. And he won everywhere. He won race champions, the race champions, at Oswego. He won down in New Smyrna. He would win everywhere he went. He
won loud in the tour races. Yeah.
He is a great racer. He did do a lot of racing. I kind of understand why he's retiring too. He has put his life into it. Now it's time to do other stuff. He's going to be missed, especially up in the upstate New York area. Always had beautiful race cars. One of the last few guys that run a Hutter engine too. So it's one of Hutter's top drivers now that retiring too. We wish you well, Chuck. Thanks for your years of racing, and we enjoyed watching your race. Off to New Egypt free for Toms River area residents on August 10th. So if you live in Toms River and you have Toms River on your driver's license or on your mail and you can prove you live in Toms River, you will get free at New Egypt Speedway.
That's a pretty cool promotion, not going to lie.
They've been doing every town. Every week they have a town. So, keep an eye on that. You might pick the town you live in to go to the races for free.
I know, what is it, Atco, they'll do, like if it's like 15 or 20 to get in normally, they'll do like $1 for if you're a Waterford resident.
Right.
If you live locally, come on out, it's cheap. I don't know.
Plus that keeps the people down from complaining about the noise too in the local area. And be like, hey man, you're allowed in for $1, come hang out, come watch the races,
Yeah. Let's see. Somebody sent in or I saw a picture that Road America has the best track food. It was a pancake platter and a double brat. You guys remember?
You sent us that picture. I don't know about that,
but I don't think I'd ever eat one with a pancake.
Well, I think they were separate meals.
Okay.
The two photos, but we love talking about food, and I could go for a pancake platter right now. I already ate dinner, and I'm starving.
Just while we're on the food subject, me and Nancy went to Atlantic City on Friday night. We had a free room, and we weren't racing Saturday, so it was a perfect time for us to do something that didn't involve racing. So we went down to Atlantic City on Friday night, and we sat at the Tropicana.
Josh is naughty.
And it's not really about food, but it's about a restaurant that I thought was pretty cool. That has a pretty cool gimmick down there now. It's a Japanese restaurant. I don't even know the name of it, but when you walk by it, you don't even know it's there. It looks like a small store that would be on the side of like New York City. You know how they have the small little newsstands, where it's just
bodega?
Not even a bodega, just kind of like a kiosk, like a real small store where it's just got like newspapers stacked up and like cigarettes and candy hanging on the wall. That's exactly what it looks like. So you walk in there and there's a girl working the cash register and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden you see the back wall open up and there's this beautiful restaurant behind the back wall. It's like hidden like a speakeasy.
That's
Holy
cool.
crap.
Yeah, no, it was totally cool. And then we're like, hey, let's try it. So the girl that's actually working the register, if you buy a pack of gum or a pack of cigarettes or whatever, she's actually the hostess. You don't even know it. So you got to ask her, like, well, we want to go into the restaurant. And it was 8:00 and she's like, I can't get you in to 10:30. So we never waited to go in there, but it was just a cool gimmick restaurant down there. It was really cool. And we never even knew about it. Nancy actually went down there Thursday with one of her coworkers and she showed Nancy the place. So it was definitely a cool gimmick down there that they had. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. That was pretty funny.
I have to. Where was it at?
In the Tropicana.
Tropicana. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So wait. So Now, to speak to a dumb redneck like me, where in relation to the Hooters?
Way away from the Hooters. It's more over by like car mines and all that stuff.
Okay.
But the Hooters is like down on ground level out by like the boardwalk,
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of the Hooters, we did walk down there too. I wanted to go to Hooters because I listened to Chase Elliott on the Dale Jr. Download podcast, and they were talking about Hooters, so it just had my mindset on Hooters. Hooters came out with like their own liquor line, like vodka and all that stuff like that, and that's what Chase Elliott's promoting at Bristol.
Okay.
So I'm like, man, let's go to Hooters. She's like, I ain't eating at Hooters. So anyway, down by Hooters now, there's another bar that recently opened down there. It's a country bar. And, it's a typical country bar. Like instead of bar stools, it's like horse saddles you can sit on at the bar and stuff like that. So we hung out there for a little while as well. So yeah, we had fun down in Atlantic City. All right, TJ's third place. What do you want to talk about there, Josh?
Well, TJ gave a press release. Basically, he had a fluid leak, and it wasn't a personal fluid leak. It was his car. Basically, fluid was pouring out of the bottom of the engine. He didn't get to recording lap times, and let's see, it was a small crack on the block and a punctured bypass cap. So they tried, looking for hoses, and like a bolt in a hose with a hose clamp. We all know that trick to plug it up, and nothing was working. So somebody came up to him with a tampon, and they shoved the tampon in there, and it worked. He said it started to overheat right towards the end of the race. I think it was like the final lap. It started to overheat. He ended up finishing third. This was at New Egypt, just so everybody knows. And I don't know. I mean, I've heard of people using diaper tampon things or whatever, like for leaking fluid and kind of just trying to absorb it by taping something up or sticking it under part of the, behind the transmission so it catches the fluid. But I've never heard it for a hose leak.
Instead of actually fixing the leak, you just try to contain it so it doesn't get on the exhaust and smoke and stuff like that. I mean, if any listener wants to write in or message us and tell us some of the funny ways they fixed their race car to make it through a night. One of the things, reading the Richie Evans book, he had a leak, a small leak in his radiator at one race, and he came over to the radio and he told his pit crew to run over to the concession stand and grab the big jar of pickle relish. He says, "I'll come in the pits, take the radiator cap off, and dump as much pickle relish as you can into the radiator." And what his thinking was, and it worked, was that the relish, the chunks of pickle would circulate in the water in the radiator, and as it would pass over the hole, it would stick into the hole and plug it up. Mm-hmm. And of course, then that piece of pickle relish would get blown off it, but then the next piece of pickle relish would get stuck in it. So after a while, it would slow the leak down because it was just a small leak to begin with, and he was able to finish like a 200-lap modified race with a radiator filled with pickle relish. So,
how do you flush that out when you're done?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a mess when you're done. You got a lot of pickles to flush out of your engine block and everything, but it got him through that race, and he was able to finish the race. So there is a lot of funny stories like that. Of how
Ron Hutter must have loved that one when it came back.
But there's a lot of funny stories, and if anybody else has a story, how they, you always hear people like break a brake line and they just crimp it off with a vice grip and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, if anybody has a cool story about how they made it through a night by rigging something up so they can get through the night like TJ did, please share it with us. It's something we can always talk about.
I love those stories.
Did you want to do the New Egypt lineup now, or you just want to do them all? I mean, the finishing orders, or you just want to do them all at the end of the segment, Josh?
Hang on one sec. We'll do them at the end of the segment. Keep going because I have to refresh the damn results page.
I can thank TJ Graves for coming to the Twins' birthday party.
Yeah, he did show up at my mom's house for a birthday party. That was pretty cool.
The girls really like him as a race car driver, and they happened to give him an invitation, and he showed up, and that made their day. So that's showing another race car driver going out of their way to help their fan base. So thank you for that.
All right, Evergreen has a 35-lap modified feature this weekend, and they're trying to make it real big. They got a bunch of extra money bonus money and stuff like that. They're going to start 21 cars. They normally start 20 cars. It is a memorial race. Josh, didn't Ted Gross send you a release on this? And you
Yep,
want to
I'm
talk about it a little
pulling
bit?
that up right now. It is a long message. So it says, Ted Crow can talk.
Yeah, they call him a mouth for a reason.
When his internet's working.
Huge news about this Friday night's 35 lapper, which you wouldn't think is normally a huge race, but it is for this one. Make sure you read it all, he says. So the second annual Tony Fisher Memorial is slated for Friday night at Evergreen Raceway. In addition to street stocks, four cylinders, and factory stocks, the tour mods are on the card. Tour mods are going to run 35 laps instead of the usual 50. The promoter is paying instead of $2,000. Is paying the regular payout of $2,000 to win. 21 cars are going to start the feature. 20 cars are going to qualify through heat and constant races, and the 21st will be the sponsor provisional. Evergreen Lawn Care will be paying $100 to the 22nd position non-qualified car. Marchetti Auto of Drums, Pennsylvania, has come aboard as the heat sponsor. Any tour mod driver winning his heat will win $100 courtesy of Marchetti Auto. In addition to the regular tour mod payout, Wannick Construction Incorporated and Franzosa Trucking Incorporated are throwing in an additional $100 to positions 11 through 20. Tommy Winnick wanted to honor Tony, who was a great friend and mentor. Tony was a machinist by trade, and Tommy said whatever he needed, Tony was there for him. Tony could make any part or body panel he ever needed. Tommy said that Tony's death affected him greatly and wanted to honor his memory and thank him for everything that he did for him over their 20-plus year friendship. Tony was the crew chief and car builder for the number 31 modified of Roger Heffelfinger. Heffelfinger, up until the day he passed on April 15th, 2017. Over their 26-year friendship, Roger and Tony, together with their entire pit crew, were highly successful at both Evergreen Raceway, winning a championship in 1993, and later at Mahoning Valley Speedway, where they earned a track championship in 2005, and won the Bob Heavy Shearer Memorial Race in 2016. Tony was one of a kind, and his love of racing had no limits. You needed a part, he was there to help. He could create anything, and he was very proud of his accomplishments. Tony's passing has left a void that can't be replaced among his family and friends. He not only helped modify teams, but he was also a big part of Steve Schultz's late model and street stock teams. To help us honor his memory on August 9th, in addition to the additional money added to the purse and heat wins, Tony's family is collecting lap sponsors, and there will also be hard charger awards. Kids are also going to be a big part of the memorial race. The Fisher family is doing back-to-school supplies, face painting, kids' Chinese auction, or silent auction, I think we have to call it today, politically correct. We also have bike giveaways. The family will also be selling chances on tricky trays, with all proceeds benefiting the Tony Fisher Scholarship at the Hazleton Area Career Center, to be awarded to a senior graduating from the machine shop. The payout for the race is as follows. For first, you're going to get $2,000. Second is $1,000. Third is $900. 600, 500, 475, and then 7th through 11th we'll get 450. 12th is 425, 400, 375, 350, and $250 to 21st place. We hope everyone joins us in honoring Tony's memory. Keep in mind the rain date for this race is Sunday, August 11th. So, there's a lot to go through there, but they've definitely brought in a lot of sponsors. It's a big event for them.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Sounds like a great night of racing up there at Evergreen on a Friday night. So if you're in the area, definitely go check it out. I mean, we all love Evergreen Speedway. Ted Grow does a great job getting information out. It sounds like a great night that they put together up there. So by all means, go check it out.
Definitely. So with that said, I'm going to get to the New Egypt results real quick. And it just says feature. It doesn't tell me what division, which is awesome. So maybe I'll come back to this in a minute because, yeah.
We're going to read. We know the drivers in what divisions.
All right, so I have Rich Mellor in the 0-2, Brian Spencer, Larry Drake, Dwayne Nixon, Brad Schall, That was for the first feature. Then we have for the second feature Steve Davis, Ryan Simmons, Jeremy Martino, Steve Hicks, Eric Palmer, Anthony Tramontana, Howie Finch Jr., Johnny Bangs, Seth Spade, and Joe Toth. And what?
Yeah. Maybe you
Hell
should
of it.
refresh.
Well, the next one's got to be the modifieds.
Yeah, Brandon Grasso, Billy
Yeah.
Pouch Jr., David Van
There you
Horn, Danny Book, Davey Salmons, Ken Vaklovic. Oh, God, I butchered that. I apologize. John McClellan, Ryan Cratchin, PJ Oliver, and Wade Hendrickson. And that rounds out your top 10 for the modifieds. What else is next here? For Bridgeport, so Lee Allen doesn't shoot us. Rich Stinson for the first feature. Tom Wills
Wins
Jr.
all the time down there.
Tom Wills Jr., Brian Ludwig, Lee Allen in fourth. Jeff Dirks, Andrew Jocelyn, Justin Nolan, Billy Roble, Ken Morin, and Nicky Sandone. That rounds out your top 10. And it didn't close, of course. Why would it? And we have... Why is that going weird? Okay, Wade Hendrickson, Matt Stengel, Billy Pouch Sr., Dominic Buffalino, Jimmy Horton, Richie Pratt Jr., Neil Williams, Jim Britt, Rick Lawback, and Roger Manning. Now for the final feature. Come on, load. Travis Hill, Tom Sherby, Wayne Weaver, Matt Peck, Eric Corman, James Hill, Jim Gallagher Jr., Bobby Brackall, Ernie Miles III, and David Hartman is round out your top 10. Perfect. Okay. So that's what I have for that. I have to refresh the wall page before we get to that. So let's move on to the next topic while I worry about that.
Well, we can talk about Wall Stadium. I did go to Wall Stadium on Saturday night. It was the first time I actually got to sit in the grandstands and just be a spectator for a while. The reason we went, it was ladies' night, and my wife Nancy, driver of the '89 Wall Stadium Factory Stock, had to do an autograph session with the other female drivers from Wall Stadium. They had 7 girls there signing autographs. They all did a great job. Diane had a nice little table set up, and she had like flowers on it. There was a great line. I was really shocked. I'm like, because like I said, we were in Atlantic City. We actually we could have stayed in Atlantic City Saturday night as well. We had a free room for Saturday night. But Nancy had the obligation to go up there and sign autographs. And I'm glad we went because I was really shocked about how long that line was and how many autographs those girls were signing. They did a great job.
That
was a beautiful night. It was a beautiful night for racing. It wasn't hot. It wasn't cold. There was a nice breeze. There was a great crowd. And the reason there was a great crowd is because it was a ladies' night. Ladies only paid half price to get in, which was $9 to get in. So it was a great night of racing. And we always talk about how the races get over quick. I didn't stay for the four-cylinders had double races. I saw the first one, and then they raced the late models and everything else in the modifieds. And I didn't stay for the second four-cylinder race, which is the last feature of the night. But I was in my car at 9:15. I actually got in the car at 9:14 p.m. after the modified feature.
Wow.
So they did get done early over there. And it was good racing. It was an enjoyable night, great crowd.
So it's five feature races, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It was 2 4-cylinder races: sportsmen's, modifieds, late models. So that was your 5 features.
Mm-hmm.
The late model race was good. Shannon had some competition. Andrew Kraus drove Dominic Casola's number 2, and him and Dominic, Shannon and Andrew Kraus duked it out for a while. Andrew's car was a little tight. It was the first time the car's been on the track this year, so I'm sure they'll adjust on that. But he had something for Shannon. They ran real good. Him and Shannon had a great race going. Unfortunately, every time Shannon would get a nose under him and the race would get really going good, the yellow flag would come out. So it was we really missed a great race of Shannon passing him during the race. I'm sure Shannon would have got by him sooner or later because, like I said, Shannon's car was turning great, and he can cut underneath Andrew, and Andrew was tight pushing. But Shannon was able to get by him on a restart after a while. It was good racing. The whole night was kind of like that in every division. Every time you got some good side-by-side racing going, the yellow came out. It kind of ruined the night of racing, but it was good. There's good car counts. I mean, the late models even had 8, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there's times they'd be down to 4, so they had 8 cars. The modifieds had 18 to 20 cars, I think they had. The modified race was won by Jason Hearn in orange number 12, so it was cool seeing a Hearn number orange 12 back in victory lane. He started on the pole. He had good tires on his car, but in Jason's defense, he ran a great race because he had Andrew right on his bumper and Steven Reed right on his bumper, and he was able to hold them off for the better part of 20 laps. And for him to hold those guys off and get a feature win, it was well deserved for Jason. It's been a long time. Jason even said it himself in victory lane. He says, not only did I think I would never even win a race, he's like, I didn't think I'd ever finish a race again. And he was saying like the last 10 races he's wrecked out of them. So for him to show up there and not only finish but to win was a big deal. And
a very popular win too.
A very popular win. Everybody likes Jason. Everybody loves his father, Gil. And Gil's is the all-time winner at Wall Stadium, 101 feature wins. Another cool little story about it too. Like a lot of people don't realize. I just thought it was cool how Jason Hearn still shows up with a little open trailer, and all these guys got these big fancy haulers, and he was able to win the modified feature using just a little pickup truck and a little open trailer.
He's investing his money in the right spots.
Yeah, so it was a good run for Jason. I hope. And I tell you what, I'm friends with Jason. I follow him on Facebook, and lately he hasn't been racing much at all. Like I think this is only his second or third time at Wall Stadium this year, and he didn't race much last year either. It's like it almost seemed like he had one foot out the door in racing, like he's getting ready to stop racing. And by him winning this race, maybe he'll do some more racing now and stick around a little longer.
It's also good for Mr. Wolf and Jamie Wolf. Mr. Wolf's been battling his health a little bit, and it's good for those guys. Jamie Wolf had both him and his dad have owned modifieds for a very long time, so it's good for them to be back to victory lane too.
Yeah, they finally got rewarded for the money they've spent in racing and the hard work and everything that they've done. So it's nice to see somebody else get a win like that hasn't won in a while, and it was nice to see Jason get the win. So congratulations to Jim Wolf, Jamie Wolf, and Jason Hearn for their big win Saturday night at Wall Stadium. Josh, you got the finishing results there yet?
Yeah, Jason Hearn, Andrew Krause, Stephen Reed, Jason Treat, who we haven't seen up there as much recently. So a good run for him. Derek Hopkinson, Kevin Davison, Tyler Truex, Joey Merlino, Kenny Van Wickle, and Dom Fataruzo. That's your top 10.
I did want to mention Kevin Davison did a hell of a job up there for the first half of that race. He started up front, and he was on the outside for a really long time. He doesn't have much time in a modified, and I know he raced sportsmen for a long time, but he held his own out there with all those guys. And I just wanted to mention
he was definitely
really
fast.
good.
The 99 car.
Yeah.
So then we have the sportsman feature. How many cautions were there, Scott?
9,000. I tell you what, though, not in the beginning of the race.
They did good at the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning of the race, it was kind of boring in the beginning of the race. They were typical sportsman type race where they're single file, nobody can pass. It looked like it was almost going to go green white checker. Tommy Martino's son, he was leading the race, and he had a big lead, and if there wasn't a yellow, he had that race won. And then like after halfway, someone spun, the yellow came out, and then like Darrell Waltrip, he says cautions breed cautions, and then it just turned that race into a nightmare. Right after that first caution, they just could never get going again,
Right.
Tommy Martino's another one. He hasn't been racing that long, and he did a hell of a job in the beginning of that race.
Looks like he ended up ninth.
He ended up in a pretty bad accident there coming out of 2. He got like jumbled up, and he kind of like slowed up, and one of the Di Tommaso kids jumped his wheel. And
Carson did. Yeah, Carson jumped Tommy Martino's wheel and went straight into the wall, like airborne into the wall. And that was a hard wreck. And I was glad to see Carson okay. It's a shame. That's a beautiful race car, and it got pretty much destroyed.
Wow. All right, so we have Jarrett DeGiant Tommaso with the win. Neil Rutt III in second. I mean, Neil
ran great.
Neil can drive just about anything. Let's be honest.
That kid's fun. He's fun to watch race. He's definitely got a career ahead of him if everything goes well.
I love racing with him. For the most part, he's a pretty darn clean driver, and he's a good driver. He's got a lot of talent. So hopefully it goes somewhere. I mean, I know that family sacrifices a lot for him to be able to race. He works hard at it, so it's good to see him do that well. But at the same time, it is a sportsman, so uh, I can't.
And
Be
Josh, why
that.
you saying that? It was funny. Like I see people wreck early in the race, and you think their night's done, and they go back, make repairs, and they're like dead last, and their car's all bent up. But then they finish in the top 5 because everybody wrecked again. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you got a sportsman, and you get a little banged up at the beginning of the race, get back out there, even if your car's dragging parts and the toe's knocked out, because just try to finish. You might gain spots, and a lot of people did.
Yeah. Third was Shannon Monjo. Fourth, oh my God, Roland DiMartino. I mean, him finishing a race, like you're saying, just getting out there and staying in it and finishing.
He almost passed Shannon too at the end. Something must have happened.
No, something happened to Shannon's car. Like 3/4 of the way down the straightaway, like it would shut off or something.
Yeah. He even pulled down to the low line with a few laps ago. Something broke on his car. I thought Shannon really had a shot to win. I would have loved to see that X3 in victory lane. But something broke in the end where he was on 7 cylinders or something. He just lost straightaway speed, and he was pretty much floored it through the quarter. He was still beating him through the quarter, but they were passing him down the straightaway.
Yeah.
And that's great for Roland too, because he wrecked his car earlier in the year pretty bad, like opening night, and it kind of hurt him. He hasn't been racing much, so for him to fix that car and come back, he did have a for sale sign on the car, so I think he's a little frustrated with racing. But when a guy like that puts a for sale sign on his car because he's having a bad year, comes back and gets a top 5 finish like that, maybe like Jason Hearn, that'll make him feel pretty good about himself and racing again, and he'll stick around a little bit longer.
I think that's going to be a huge boost for confidence and everything else. Fifth was Jonathan Lorre, which I want to give another shout out to him. They had that I forget where it was. They had the cars on display. Where I think Roger
Windward
Nickerson.
Beach, right? Windward Beach.
Is that where it was? I know Roger Nickerson brought his car out there, and Jonathan Lorre. I give him a lot of credit. He brings his car down to. The Touch a Truck event in Manahawkin. We'll see Dan Thomas with RCTU Racing there and all that. He's really out there trying to promote the track, and I just want him to know that we appreciate it. Sixth was Kyle Sisko. Seventh, Jake Nelke, Robert Sutphin, Tommy Martino, and Carson D. Giant Tommaso for... There you go. And then Kenny Reeves, which I almost said Keanu Reeves.
Here's a name from the past. That's Scott.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about him when we had Phil Gould on. Remember? Reeves was Phil Gould's childhood friend that got Phil Gould involved. Well, I mean, Phil Gould's father raced, but they raced with the Reeves family. Jerry Reeves, Kenny Reeves, and the Goulds raced together forever. They lived in the same town. And out of nowhere, the guy hasn't raced in 10 or 15 years. And next thing I know, I'm like, man, there's an 88 on the track. Whose car is that? And then they're like, oh, welcome back, Kenny Reeves. I'm like, oh, my God, he just showed back up racing.
And there was a little excitement in that race between the 52. Who finished behind the 52, Josh?
John Nelke or Joe Nelke?
Nelke or something?
So we had Sisko, Nelke, and then Sutphin.
Yeah, those two had a debacle on the track where they couldn't figure out who was supposed to be ahead of who or something, and they were running into each other, and then I guess then a fight broke out in the pits.
Well, let's be real about this. I mean, a lot of people have been complaining about the receiver. Look, I don't have a problem with the receiver. It 99% of the time works great. But if I'm at the track, a lot of times I bring my receiver, even if I'm just a spectator, so I know what the tower's saying, and I've been putting it in the videos as well, so that way the people that watch the videos can hear what the tower's saying when they're yelling at a driver and telling them to pick a lane and such. But for some reason, the sportsman guys, I don't know what it is, but they don't listen to the receiver. I don't know if it's a spotter not relaying it or them not hearing it or them ignoring it, but it seems to be a problem in that division.
And what I do too, Josh, before my race, I put my helmet on and my receiver on, and I listen to the race before my race.
Yes.
To make sure my receiver's working. If we're up on deck and we're lined up in the pits, and there's 5 to go into the say the 4 cylinders are racing before us, there's 5 to go in the 4 cylinder race. I listen to the receiver and make sure it's working. If I don't hear nothing, I know it's my receiver because they're talking. You know what I'm saying?
You're hearing this.
Yeah, exactly. That's you hear, and if I'm not hearing nothing, then I double check my equipment, and just a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I'm not hearing nothing. Something's wrong. And I looked down, and my race receiver was on, but my earphones weren't plugged all the way, and they were in, but they weren't in all the way. So I pushed it in, and they were working. I heard the end of the race. So now I know I'm going down on the track, and my equipment's working, you know?
There's always going to be that one time where there's technical issues, like you say, something like that happens. That does happen. Things do break and things do go bad. But there's a couple ways. We talked about this before. There's a couple ways that you can do this. One way, and I hope they don't go this way because I don't want to have to do it, but most of the tracks that we go to in a weekly show, not the tour races, but the weekly show, you have to have a spotter. The spotter has to be in a certain location with an official in case something like that happens. The official tells the spotter, and then the spotter tells the driver. And if the driver doesn't hear him, the spotter can say he can't hear me, or he's not responding. Then they know he can't hear them. You know, instead of sitting there screaming at him for 3 laps. If the guy can't hear you, he can't hear you. You can yell at him on the radio all you want.
Yeah.
And Tim, I agree with you too, because there's times they're yelling at somebody in my race, and I'm like, it's obviously they can't hear you. You gotta get a track worker out on the track and point him down to the thing and tell him what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Or black flag the guy. If his equipment ain't working, he ain't listening, he ain't paying attention, get him off the track, man.
I had it where mine during the race came unplugged. I've actually had a couple of times. One, Jerry Koenig slowed up way too much, and I wailed him. Not intentionally, but my race receiver actually came off of my belt, came unplugged, and flew and landed in my door.
Right.
And then there was another time it just the jack wiggled out.
Again, if you're in that situation where your equipment's not working and you can't hear the tower, then you don't fight for a position under caution. You just fall into place, or you just go where they're you can tell if the guy's like running up on you and moving you out of the way because you're in a spot. Give him that spot, because obviously that guy can hear and they're telling him to go to that spot. You know what I'm saying? If I ever in a situation where my scanner stops working, that's when I start paying attention to the flagger and the flags and looking at the laps on the scoreboard and the order where I'm supposed to be in the scoreboard. Or I don't fight for a position because I don't know what's going on. So I'll just take the hit and be like, all right, well, this guy's fighting to get into 5th and I must be 6th. You know what I'm saying? I won't fight for 5th if I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So
I've kind of just rolled around, and the one time when it came out, I actually had the other drivers who did hear wave me by. And I was like, oh, Ronnie's waving me by, so I guess I'm getting back to that spot. Okay, great.
Right.
And then the factory stock guys have been really good about it, and they would actually even leave a gap, and that's where that guy's supposed to go, and it works out. Not every division can do that. And then I know the sportsman guys like to be, maybe hot-headed or whatever it is, but I've seen it in all divisions, to be fair, where people are like, no, I had this spot. No, listen to the damn tower and get over yourself.
And I think that's one of the things when I started racing, there wasn't radios like that. Like I can race under any situation because I've been through it all. I've raced with mirrors. I've raced without mirrors. I've raced with a full face helmet on. I've raced with an open face helmet on. I've raced with a scoreboard and no scoreboard. I've raced with a spotter. And I've raced with no spotter. It's just some of these people probably might not have ever raced without a radio, so they don't know how to handle a situation like that without a radio,
Okay. Scott, you prefer the mirrors, though, right?
Yeah, I like mirrors.
Now, would you use a spotter if they let you in the factory stock?
Yeah. I mean, we're allowed one. I definitely use one. It's definitely fun to have someone to talk to.
Are you definitely not allowed to use one? Does it say in the rules?
Yes.
Yeah, we're definitely not allowed to use one.
Oh, that's stupid.
But I'm fine not using one either because my receiver works and I think the tower does a great job. There's just been times like if I'm leading the race and now the car's like getting tight. I like to tell my crew, hey, I'm going to try to hold them off, but the car's getting tight. So if you see me
okay, here's another example. When whoever I spot for, they don't use a receiver. They go through. I hear it and I tell them.
Right.
Well, if you're leading the race. And there's some joker, we'll say the red 57's in the back.
Yeah.
Doing donuts in the infield or holding 3 cars up. And not donuts in the infield because that's under race conditions. Let's say just, Josh, your receiver's not working for the evening. And you're going down the backstretch and the guy's telling you to pick a lane or telling you how to drive. That doesn't bother you listening to somebody else.
Yeah, sometimes it does get frustrating because now you're hearing the conversation that
if you
have nothing to do with and you don't care.
Yeah.
And it used to get frustrating when like Ronnie Mullen and Paul Hartwick were having temperature tantrums and they're slamming into people. And
when
like,
I was going to say, Scott, when it's repetitive, when it's two drivers that are going after each other again and again, yeah, it's a little annoying. But even if, let's say I'm running 10th, I'm going to give myself that honor. And and they're yelling at somebody who's about to go a lap down to stay low, stay low. I'm like, well, they're not worried about me. You know, they got to stay low for the leader. So, I mean, if anything, it's giving me information of where they're at. That's the same as somebody telling me, leader's on the front stretch or coming off a 2. So I take that as information, not as annoying. For the most part, it's
I've been
okay.
racing long enough. I can block it out too. I know they're not talking about me, and it's not my incident. It's not, whatever. But sometimes you do hear information that you don't need to hear, and it gets distracting. You know what I'm saying?
They say you wouldn't hear that if you had just one person talking to you.
Right.
It doesn't bother me that much. Maybe it would if I was driving a modified and I had less time to react to things. Maybe.
But sometimes it's funny too if you hear like 17 knock it off. Doing that. It's kind of funny sometimes too. You know what I'm saying?
Eric Graham was my favorite.
All information is good information, but I understand what Tim's saying. Now I'm hearing everybody's problem on the radio, where if it went through a spotter, I would only hear it if it's directed towards me, you know?
There was a time in a heat race, Eric Graham told Dan Springfield in the 54, 54, he was doing a really slow pace lap, and he says, I think you left your blinker on. And it lightens everybody up a little bit, I think, if you're listening to it. I mean, if you can't laugh at that, I mean, I know everybody wants to be serious, and I'm not saying don't take it, as a joke. I mean, you're doing something that can be dangerous, but we're out there to have fun.
You just mentioned how Chris LeRae and the 2 Legend Car guys had their cars up at some event at Wynwood Park in Brick. I just want to say something that I got going on tomorrow night with Nancy's car. We're taking Nancy's car to something. It's National Night Out tomorrow. Every town's having something across the nation. We were invited to do it for Plumstead Township in New Egypt. We're taking our cars there. Jimmy Bullett's also using my flatbed to take his dirt modified out there. So I know 2 race vehicles are going to be there. Jimmy Bullett's dirt modified and Nancy's 89 factory stock car is going to be there. The date is Tuesday, August 6, 2019, which is tomorrow night. The car is going to be there from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. The location is at the New Egypt Rec Fields, 30 Bryn Mawr Road in New Egypt. It's a community building campaign that promotes emergency services and community partnerships and neighborhoods camaraderie. If interested in showing your business or group, please send attached into the info coordinator. So it's just a fun night out.
You're really putting the pressure on me to get this out tomorrow.
Well, it's tomorrow night, so everybody knows about National Night Out. It's kind of like a touch a truck thing. They have fire trucks there, ambulances. You bring the kids out, they can see all the equipment. There's going to be race cars there. A lot of times these places have like a junk car there, and they do a demonstration of them like cutting the roof off and all that stuff like that. There's a bunch of stuff.
They had a helicopter land, like a Navy helicopter or something land at the one we were
cool.
at.
Yeah, I mean, every town tries to outdo the next town, so they're getting pretty creative with what they're doing. And Tim, hopefully you can come out there tomorrow night and hang out with us. One thing Plumstead's doing is they're having fireworks at the end of the night, so that should be pretty cool.
My town got out of the whole National Night Out thing. We just do it on a different date. We do a movie. They an outdoor, like a drive-in movie.
Oh, that's always cool too.
Yeah, so I think this year they already did it. It was a Wreck-It Ralph, or Ralph Breaks the Internet, or whatever. And it's great. You get the kids out there. You watch a drive-in movie, and it's just fun. They give popcorn. Like I think the ShopRite or whatever donated popcorn for the whole thing. So they still do something, just not on the same day as everybody else. But
all right, Josh, finish the lineup, the finishing orders for the modifieds. We left off with the sportsmen, so you still got the 2 4-cylinders.
Modified sportsmen. Okay, so we'll do the late models real quick. You talked about that already. Shannon Monjo with Andrew Krause hot on his tail. And Chris Silvestri, Andy Gamble, Jim Mormon, Michelle Mormon, Mike Tillett, and Greg Gastelum. Gastelum. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at this. I'm not Eric Brennan. Hey, I'm over here now, and I need a hot dog. And By the way, I'm going to try to put a podcast sticker on the Wienermobile because it's going to be at the ShopRite in Lacey Township coming up soon. And I'll take a picture of it and tag Eric. So for the first four-cylinder feature, we have Alonso Morales with a well-deserved win. I mean, he's a great driver. I'm glad to see him back racing. I know he took some time off previously. I know, and with his mother passing, and it's been tough for him lately. But it was really great to see him out there and just getting it done. Close behind Neil Rutt III again because he can drive anything. Then you have Ricky Williams, Randy Hart, Chuck McDonald, Ryan Marr, Darian McLaren, Nicole Rosano, Bill Schwartz, and Richard Smith. And we had Deanna McLaren in 11th. That's Darian's sister, and the DQ of Jeffrey Loesch. So then the second feature rolls around. Alonso Morales gets it done again, followed again by Rudd with Jeffrey Loesch not DQ'd in third place. Marr, McDonald, Rosano, Mike Lavery showed up for that one, apparently. Randy Hart, Darian McLaren, Marco Volsanic, Cody Critelli with our sticker, Smith, Schwartz, Deanna McLaren, and Williams.
You said the 42 got DQ'd in the first one. He actually won the first race. So he must have got DQ'd on the scale.
Yeah, something with camber. He had a camber issue after the race and got DQ'd.
Well, he fixed it for the second race.
All right. I just didn't. I don't remember them saying anything over the loudspeaker unless I missed it about him losing the first one.
Tim's sick of hearing that stuff over the loudspeakers. He hears enough of that crap over here.
All right, so that pretty much pre-wraps it up. Let's get to what have we learned?
We'll do the modified tour.
Modified tour.
I did want to point out that who sent that video of that guy doing his victory lap and flipping the car?
I said it.
Yeah, that was funny. It was
Remember when you're doing donuts and you make sure you don't hit a rut in the track and flip your car over like that guy did.
It was a crazy week for that kind of stuff. You had that video. You had the video of Bubba Pollard laying that guy out on the front stretch after the race. When
a lot of fights and a lot of weird stuff happened.
Yeah. You see the one guy parked. He won it was like a late model race. He parked on victory lane. He
put his helmet on the roof and then some guy
hit him. So he got out. He drop kicked him in the car.
Oh my God!
It was.
You know what? I just think this stuff's always been going on. It's just now with social media and cell phone and everybody with Facebook pages, we just know about it now. You know what I'm saying? But things are getting crazy at racetracks.
If only we had a weird black rectangle in our pockets that had a camera on it.
But, it's getting to be where it's the middle of summer. It's hot. People get tired, hot and cranky. They've worked through their race car budget pretty much for the year. It's a long stretch, and people get like that. Once it cools down, it'll be fun.
One thing we're going to point out, because basically our pre-show show, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but we were talking about radios and scanners and receivers. And Scott and I really don't have any problems with the receivers. They work great, but there are some tracks that don't have the capability to run the frequencies that those accept. So you have to use a regular, either like a racing electronics scanner or something like that. But Tim was telling us for like $30 more than a receiver, you can get these really good rechargeable scanners, and after like a year, they've already paid for themselves. So that's really what it was about. So honestly, with racing, just like with your safety equipment, I know you want to get that, lightweight aluminum, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Spend the money on your safety equipment. Spend the money on your radios, too, to make sure you have good equipment. You can hear what's going on and stay in contact. It is worth it. That's all I'm going to say with that. And that I'll see if we can share that victory flip Carl Edwards thing on our Facebook page.
You know what's scary about that guy flipping? He had his arm out the window with the checker flag.
Oh, I don't want to think about it.
The car flipped, and I'm hoping he pulled his arm back in time because that car flipped quick and unexpectedly.
Hopefully, he didn't pull his belts off already.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a headache.
Situation. It was just so funny because he drove to the back straightaway, kind of like
that must have been his family or something, because they were all cheering.
To the back straightaway to see his family. They were all cheering. Next thing you know, he's flipping it. They went silent like right away.
Did you hear that one guy did? It's like, whoa! Right before they shut it off.
Yeah, we'll post that on Josh. If you could put that up on RPM Podcast Facebook page, that'd be great so everybody can see what we're talking about.
We'll use the hashtag not Carl Edwards. Yeah, I think that's pretty much going to cover it for today. So we're going to move on to what have we learned
I
today?
said about the modified tour.
Oh,
Go
dang
ahead,
it.
Tim. Do your
I
modified
sit
tour
here
thing.
through
That's
the
all you
factory
You
stock
just
crap
said-
every week. I sit here through the
Oh.
F1 crap every week. I don't get to talk about my stuff.
Well, you can talk about it, even though it was Friday. That was a long time ago.
It's
but go ahead.
modifieds. Nobody
It was
cares.
Thursday. It was Friday. That was yeah. Actually, the race was Doug Kobe led the whole thing until it was lap 197, and the yellow came out. He had up to I think sixth place lapped, and then the yellow came out, and they came in. And at Stafford, you can only change one tire at a time. You can't change any more than one thing at a time. So they came in for fuel the first time, and Doug came in and changed three tires. So he had to come back in three times, where everybody else basically came in twice. So he was the last car in the lead lap, with after the lucky dog, I guess, was seventh. Seventh, I think. And he ended up not winning. Ronnie Silk won, which is good for them. Congratulations to Ronnie Silk and the spotter, Sean, and the car owners and all that. They really deserved it. That's two in a row for them. And then after the race, they interviewed Doug Kobe, and he dropped an F-bomb, and it didn't go over very well on social media. And then, like I was telling Scott before, and Josh, the drag racing guy, what's his name? John
Force.
he wins and gets out and drops the F-bomb, and everybody thinks it's great. So I don't know what the difference is, but one was frowned on, one wasn't. We ended up in the wall in turn 3 coming to the checkered, and I talked about that earlier. Eric's okay. And
You know what's funny about that, too? Like, at Loudon, everybody bitched there wasn't a green-white checker, and that the race ended up prematurely under caution. And then here we are with a green-white checker, and Doug Kobe's not happy about that. So it all depends. And like I said at Loudon, count your blessings that they didn't have a green-white checker, because usually someone ends up wrecked. And this time, they did have a green-white checker, and someone ended up wrecked, and it was Eric Goodale. So sometimes, it changes the flow of the race. And like you said, Doug Kobe led 146 laps of a 150-lap race and had the race won. Not only did he have to use 3 tires up because of the late caution, he didn't win the race either. So it really changed it and screwed him up, And it was for a simple spin, too, wasn't it, Tim? That's why the caution came out.
It wasn't nothing major, yeah. Because it 19, car number 19, I don't know who was in it, spun out.
Yeah. Tim, that was Stafford?
Yeah, Stafford.
Okay. I'm just trying to
How was the crowd there, Tim? How was the weather up there while Josh is looking for the results?
It was warm in the day, but it cooled off at night. The place was packed as always. They could have a race there 2 o'clock on Monday morning, and the place would be packed. The regular racing was good. Everything was good. And now we're off to Thompson next Wednesday, I think.
Okay. I thought I had something in it's just a NASCAR home tracks post. So, of course, I'm trying to find the results, and the NASCAR like the official Whalen Modified Tour page hasn't updated since August of 2014.
You got NASCAR home tracks.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
And then you go into the Wheel Modified Tour from there. You're off to like I said, Thompson, this is a tough race. This is the race that we lost John at, and I really want to win that race before my days are over, and my days are getting numbered. So hopefully we do good this weekend. That day, I shouldn't say.
Isn't that a Wednesday race, Tim?
Yeah.
You like those midweek shows, Tim?
Yeah. You get home awful late. Yeah. You get home. I get home at 3:30 on Friday. Besides that,
one good thing about it is you have the weekend to yourself then after that, you know what I'm saying?
the travel's not as bad. It's better than fighting Friday weekend traffic.
Right. They get good crowds at the Wednesday shows at Thompson like that?
Oh, yeah. It'll be packed, I'm sure.
Okay, I got the results finally. It was a maze to go through if you want them. Ron Silk with the win, John McKennedy, Doug Kobe, Matt Swanson, Craig Lutz, Justin Bonsignor, Jimmy Blewett, Bobby Santos the third, Sam Ramau, you want to pronounce it? Ramu, and Patrick Emmerling was your top 10. And 31 cars, am I seeing that right?
Yeah, Blake Barney should be in there somewhere.
Eric Goodale was 13th. Timmy Catalano 19th. I'm looking for Blake. I'm looking. There it is, 18th for Blake. Woody Pitcat was 15th. Melissa Fiffield was 31st. In case anyone was wondering. Sorry.
All right. Are we ready for? Oh, before I just want to do a quick show and tell before we did what have we learned.
Oh, I got a show and tell too.
Oh boy.
Hold on while I whip this out.
Oh, I did. Oh,
right,
that my
quick,
volume wasn't up.
Oh, you mean anal?
Go ahead, Scott, you go first.
Yeah, another surprise I had at Wall Stadium Saturday night when we got to the track to sign in for Nancy's autograph section. Diane came out and gave me a gift. It was a thank you gift for being part of championship night the week before I, sat in the greens and signed autographs with all the other division champions.
How's bragging camp going?
Yeah, just a little bit of bragging camp. And she gave me a cool coffee mug. She gave it to all the champions that participated in the autograph session. I just wanted to show it to you. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah, it says Wall Stadium Speedway Division Champion. It's a black coffee mug with checker flags. Just a nice little gift. It's definitely cool to have. I'm sure it'll be broken 2 weeks the way we break stuff in the dishwasher around here, but it's nice to have now, and I have been drinking my coffee at it. So to our buddy Rich that drinks coffee with us every Tuesday morning, I got my coffee mug from drinking coffee and listening to the RPM podcast. Rick Patterson.
I was
talking
to him the other. I was talking to him at Wall Stadium. Not only does he listen to us, he puts it on the widescreen TV and he sits there and drinks coffee and actually.
Well, with my gut, it has to be widescreen.
Yeah. Looking at us three early in the morning has got to be a hell of a fight for that.
So go ahead, Tim, what's your show and tell?
Definitely,
Everything's great.
Oh, he's a good fan. Thank you for the show. The girls found this in Uncle Scott's old bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
Grandma
Carol worked on.
And Martin, you can see it, Martin Truex Jr. Old school hero card.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
The car I worked on, the old Sea-Watch car.
So next time, maybe I get down there, Josh will put this on the wall down there.
All right.
I might be able to take that. I'm going to Miami Homestead. Maybe I'll take that with me and see if we can get Martin to sign it for the girls.
All right, cool. Just an old school thing that was floating around the basement.
Sadly, I have no show and tell.
All right, what have we learned? I learned today that it's National Night Out on Tuesday, so go to your town. If anybody sees race cars at any of these National Night Outs, please take a picture, message to us, and so we can promote it a little bit, talk about it.
And if they're not looking, put a podcast sticker on it.
Yeah, let's do like a where is Waldo? Let's see how many race cars are out at these National Night Out in whatever town, whatever state you're in. If you see a race car, please take a picture of it and report it back to us so we know that people are out doing this. Good, Tim. What have you learned?
I learned it was a crazy week all through the nation, right from Cup to the pits at Wall Stadium. Lots of fights and debacles and everything like that. One thing we didn't mention: the crowd at Wall Stadium wasn't great, but it was decent for what it was. It wasn't huge. I thought, Scott, you said it was pretty good for the ladies' night. I was hoping for a little bit more, but it was good. But my point being, the people that were there were into the races. They're excited. It's doing good. I'm glad to see that. And I learned Josh didn't race again.
We're going to the races.
Shocking.
Where were you, Josh? What did you do over the weekend? Oh, you cleaned your little porch out there for the listeners at home?
It's off camera, but you guys can see it. Yes, I cleaned massively, and my shed, which I need to replace, and my in-laws are moving, so there's a whole cluster F of moving their materials, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. Anyway, so is that all you learned, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good enough.
Today I learned that spotting is like telling your wife to stop at the stop sign 45 times. I learned it's called a drive flange. I learned that Scott pushed it in and got it working. And I learned that Scott can do it in any situation. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Before we close the show out, I just wanted to mention a lifelong friend of me and Scott, Rich Buck, is not doing very well. Wish him all the best luck and prayers for him. It's not looking good. he helped Scott. He's been racing stock cars and bikes and everything right with Scott up until he couldn't go to the races anymore for his health. So just
he was
keep
actually
him
one
in
of my
mind.
first cash sponsors. He's like one of my
Yeah,
first sponsors. I walked up to him. He actually handed me cash and said, "Here, put this in the race car."
He's the brother to Ronnie Buck Jr., who's a well-known crew guy at Wall Stadium, and Ron Buck Sr., who was the man back in the day, motor builder, chassis guy, everything you could think of. Just keep him in your prayers.
Quick Rich Buck story before we, Rich is having some serious health issues. We used to race bicycles on this Shannon Connor and Pride Connors. They actually had a tennis court behind their house and like a paved tennis court. It was a real nice setup, Josh. And we got sick of playing tennis on it, so we started racing bicycles on it. And we used to race bicycles on it. And one of the rules was you weren't allowed to. We wanted to make it feel like we were racing cars at Wall Stadium. So we would race bicycles, but you weren't allowed to stand up and pedal. You had to sit on the seat and pedal and steer. You're steering, with the handlebars like a race car. Well, me and Rich were racing side by side, lap after lap, leaning on each other. Finally, my pedal went into his front wheel and flipped him over the handlebars. Like, it went to his front wheel and hit his forks and stopped his front wheel dead, and he flipped over the handlebars.
I got dumped.
He got dumped. And when he stood up, his shoulder and his collarbone were up by his ear. It was the most disgusting thing I ever seen. He flipped over the handlebars and broke his collarbone and dislocated his shoulder. And he just stood up and he took it like a champ. He's like, Scott called Joe's mom. Joe was one of our friends' moms, and she was a nurse, and she was right up the street. This was before cell phones and all that stuff. We had to run in the house, call Joe's mom. Joe's mom had to run down, put him in the car, and take him to the hospital. And he had his arm in a sling for a long time. He had surgery. He had
pins and everything else.
Pins, yeah.
It just popped in there.
It was a tough race, and we always said, Rich, we got to have that rematch one day. And about 10 or 15 years ago, we went back down to Shannon's house, and the tennis court was still there. We finished that race, and we raced bicycles together on the tennis court. So, Rich is a great guy. He's just one of those guys that love racing, love sitting in the grandstands, love going up to Evergreen. He was another one that anytime we raced at Evergreen, he wanted to go, Hopefully Rich pulls through, but he is going through some pretty bad health things right now.
Sorry to hear
All right,
that.
with that being said, just real quick for Wall Stadium this weekend, 2 factory stock races, not necessarily twin races. It's finally the makeup feature from back in May that keeps getting rained out every time she reschedules it. So get there early because, that feature will be early before heat races and all that stuff. So get there early to see that factory stock race. So we have 2 factory stock races at Wall Stadium. Looking like another great weekend of racing up ahead. So everybody go to Wall.
Go to Wall.
Good night. Go to Wall.